All right, ladies and gentlemen, politics and football. What better combination? I know, baseball, hot dogs, apple pie, and Chevrolet, but, you know, politics and football right up there, especially in my playbook. And joining us now is the author of Hail Mary, the 10-step playbook for Republican recovery, is Ford O'Connell. He is a GOP strategist, former McCain Palin staffer. Hello, Ford. How are you?
Well, thank you for having me on, Steve. Big fan of the show.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. And who are you a big fan of football-wise?
I get caught. I've lived all over the country: East Coast, West Coast, Gulf Coast, coastal Lake Michigan.
you like coast, don't you?
Yeah, well, the Gulf Coast is my favorite, but yeah. I've split between the Dallas Cowboys and the New England Patriots.
Well, that's not a bad place to be stuck. I mean, you win a lot of games either way you look at it. Although
this year's Tony Romo, no.
Right. Well, I know, and this year's been crazy. Even the Patriots have been crazy the way they've been playing their games. But anyway, that aside for now. When I think of Hail Mary, I actually think of Doug Flutie, of course, with at BC. But anyway, that's from another time. All right, so let's talk about this a little bit. You say one of the 10 steps in your 10-step playbook is to believe that Ronald Reagan is dead and that Republicans need to accept it. Now, what exactly does that mean?
Well, my book, it was really an attempt to explain to the GOP with respect to 2016, these are the obstacles you're going to face. And this is, why it's going to be so hard to get the 270 electoral votes to win the White House. And one of the things I was discussing was over the past two presidential cycles, one I was a participant in, the other one I was an observer in, we wound up engaging in a battle royal over who's the rightful heir to Ronald Reagan. Look, Ronald Reagan's the greatest president, of the modern era, but essentially having this sort of a bloodbath over who it is makes us really look out of touch, and it really causes the candidates to start kneecapping each other and never actually articulate an agenda or a 21st century, vision moving forward. And you got to realize half the voters we need weren't even alive when Reagan was in the saddle.
All right, now I'll buy that, but what I'm afraid is, first of all, I don't see how striving to be Reagan-esque in so many respects, whether it's as the great communicator, which I think is the number one problem Republicans have. I think it was the number one problem John McCain had. With all due respect to you, I'm not sure what your capacity was, but his refusal to, I'm not going to talk about Reverend Wright, and I'm not going to talk about this, and I'm not going to talk about that, and, just giving Barack Obama a pass. And then Romney, not harping on Benghazi at all, and conceding the so-called war on women instead of saying, you want to talk about a war on women, and pulling out the numerous articles that had been written by then about how Obama's staffers complained, the female staffers in the White House, how it's a boys' club. And beyond that, let's compare the platforms of the two parties when it comes to life and abortion. I don't think America's ready for abortion on demand up till 9 months, and I don't think they're ready for a president who votes not to keep a baby born alive of a botched abortion alive. Yet that's what Obama did, and nobody talks about it. So I just think communication is the main problem. And if you could get a Ronald Reagan...
That's exactly what my book focuses on. You make a great point. The principles of Reagan, put forth a positive message, project yourself as a problem solver, and expand the tent. Those are timeless. The problem is we wind up getting in there saying, no, I'm more Reagan than you are. And at the end of the day, the whole thing makes us look pathetic. Look, everything you're saying about communication is exactly right. The Democrats have three plays. They've been surviving over the past 7 years on three things: the war on women, despise minorities, and hate the poor. And until we have somebody that can actually put forth a positive message and then return fire, we're not going to win the White House, particularly with Hillary Clinton on the horizon.
Well, all right. So you would like to see the party, aside from the Reagan aspect of it, which, again, I mean, I agree they shouldn't beat each other up as much as they do in the primaries, but I think that's inevitable. I mean, Hillary and Obama beat each other up pretty well, and I just think that's inevitable, whether it's under the guise of, establishing who's more Reagan-esque or just under the guise of who's more conservative or whatever. So that aside, let me predict, maybe I'm wrong, but you would like to see the party embrace immigration reform and, I don't know, embrace gay marriage. And am I on the right track?
Well, I would, with respect to immigration reform, it's something I think we need to do. That bill in front of the Senate is garbage. I would never suggest that we do that. We have to do something more along the lines of what George Will is suggesting, is put forth a bill that essentially gets us security, gets the visa situation in the right place, and actually then decides how we're going to do it, whether it's a path to citizenship, legal status, or whatever for the 12 million people we have. But we can't put forth immigration reform as long as Harry Reid's the head of the Senate, because essentially we're going to get duped. So right now is not the right time for immigration reform. If we actually took the Senate in 2014, that may be the right time to do it. But at the end of the day, you got to recognize it's easier to get here illegally than legally, and 1 in 3 U.S. residents is going to be Hispanic by 2060. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. Hispanics are an important part of the American fabric, but to have that kind of increase in population growth is almost unnatural.
Yeah, well, I'm with you, and I'm with you on the Senate bill. And I get nervous when I hear Paul Ryan and now Eric Cantor talking about, oh, don't worry, we're going to pass immigration reform, blah, blah, blah. I hope they're talking about piecemeal, and I hope they go very, very slowly, because, this is a fight that Republicans can't win. If the Republicans even took that Senate bill, theoretically, and then voted on it, the Democrats and the media would come back 2 months later or 2 weeks later or 2 days later and say, well, that's pretty good, but you know what the evil Republicans wouldn't give you? They wouldn't give you this. They wouldn't give you that. They wouldn't give you the right to bring your second cousin in from the. So I mean, Republicans will always lose in that battle in the PR war.
Well, that's exactly right, and that's what Harry Reid wants to do if you read the bill very closely, because of the sort of nuggets in there for Nevada and a few other places. They want to turn those 11 to 12 million undocumented immigrants basically into Democratic voters, and that's what we cannot allow.
Absolutely.
And that's the bottom line. But we also still have to find a way to be compassionate and to make sure that they're part of the American fabric.
All right, so what about on other issues? I mean, what are some of your other steps for the Republican Party?
Well, it's more so for the Republican presidential nominee. One of the problems that we have is that we sort of get stuck in our own little media echo chamber. I love Fox News dearly, and I love talk radio, but we need to go where the eyeballs are. We need to find 5 or 6 of our best communicators, including the nominee, and we need to go out to where the eyeballs are, whether that's morning talk shows, whether that's Bravo, whatever that may be, because essentially a lot of people don't follow politics, Steve. Do you realize why they do so well with unmarried women? 70% of unmarried women have no interest in politics whatsoever. When Barack Obama in September of 2012 dropped the White House press corps and started going on things like The View, he did very well. His point was not to articulate a perfect policy position. It was to project the fact that he was a hardworking president to the average American voter who does not pay attention. We got to recognize the rules of the game.
Yeah, no, I mean, and Romney, or at least Mrs. Romney, I'm not sure if Romney himself went on The View, but the fact of the matter is we're always going to face a hostile media. And I think just as we faced with Obama, and, I had Ted Rall, the cartoonist, on yesterday, who's now himself in hot water with the Daily Kos, because they say that his cartoon, which he's been drawing for years of Obama, is a racist portrayal. But he says that, hey, the media has given Obama a pass, mostly because he's black, and he said that sexism will be the next racism if Hillary's the nominee. In other words, if you're against Hillary, you're anti-woman. If you criticize her, you're anti-woman. Just like with Obama, you're anti-black. So the next candidate, whoever it is Ford is going to have to understand and have to have people around him that are different than the McCain and Romney people. Not you included, because you seem to know, but they got to be on the offensive against the media and understand what they're up against.
Well, that's exactly right. Look, if the mainstream media has a gif of your gaffe, that's going to have far more impact on you than any perfectly, addressed policy or substance. And that's really what we're battling today. Look, this is not about who's the most competent among 2 people. This is a beauty pageant, and basically America's electing its next class president.
Yeah, no, with that, we're talking to Ford O'Connell, GOP strategist, former McCain Palin staffer, and his book is Hail Mary, the 10-Step Playbook for Republican Recovery. So who do you, when you look at the field or the prospective field, and, do you agree with Governor Walker that it should be a governor? What's your take on where we might be headed with a nominee?
Well, I'd like to see someone who can carry a message. I do prefer the governors. I'm not saying they should be for sure, but the reason is, look, there's no on-the-job training for president, okay? And what I do like about the governors is they're one of one. The buck stops with them. And they're going to make some bad decisions. And how you live with those decisions and how you face your constituents is the real sign of leadership. I mean, look what happened with the current guy we have. There's a reason why we hadn't had senators for a very long time, because essentially they think they're running for super senator, and they hide behind their votes, and when they actually have to make real leadership decisions, they don't know how to do it.
Right. No, but so give me a name. Give me a name or it too. I mean, the
I
governor.
think, it really depends.
Are you more of a Christie?
I'll tell you right now, on the establishment side, it's looking like a Chris Christie. On the conservative Tea Party side, it's looking like a battle between Scott Walker and Ted Cruz. And the question is, in my opinion, who's going to win the Florida primary? It's going back to full primary status. And essentially, I think that the winner of that is going to wind up at least with the money backers. Now, this is going to be a long game, and whoever wins is going to be playing the long game. But if I had to say it right now, I'd be looking more towards Scott Walker and Chris Christie.
Really? All right. Well, see, to me, and I had Scott Walker up here, very nice guy, but he indicated that he and Chris Christie are on the same wavelength. I don't see Scott Walker, notwithstanding what he did in Wisconsin with the unions. I don't know that socially he's a Tea Partier.
Yeah, he may not be the social conservative that a lot of people want, but we have to recognize that's the point of the primary. That's the point of democracy. We're libertarians. We're social conservatives. We're fiscal conservatives. That's where we hash out our problem. The problem is if whether you're libertarian or you're a social conservative, if your guy doesn't win or your gal doesn't win, you cannot go home and hide the ball, because what people don't understand is this is about two people. And if you don't turn out to vote for the Republican just because your guy lost the primary, the progressives are just going to roll you. I'm scared to see what America is going to look like after 16 years of two Democratic presidents. It's going to be unrecognizable.
Well, it's pretty much that already from 5 years almost of Barack Obama, and I think we're in big trouble for the next three. Hey, Ford.
Especially since the progressives are now trying to pull Hillary Clinton to the left even more. I mean, it's bad enough that it's Hillary Clinton, but Hillary Clinton on top of Barack Obama with what the Center for American Progress is proposing, my gosh.
Yeah, no, I know. Well, again, that's not where America is as a nation, but when you have a media masking it and not digging and not telling the truth, it's very hard, which takes us back to square one with your book. And good luck with it. And Ford, thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me. I enjoyed it.
Thank you. My pleasure. That's Ford O'Connell, GOP strategist, former McCain Palin staffer, and his book is Hail Mary, the 10-Step Playbook for Republican Recovery. Yeah, I mean, look, Christie, Rob Astorino is a friend of mine. He's the Westchester County executive, two-time now, twice elected Republican Westchester County executive, and he's done wonderful things in Westchester County. He's taken on the Obama administration with HUD. They're using Westchester County as a test case, as an example of what they plan to do to the rest of the country in putting up low-income housing in every area, on every street, on every block if they feel like it. They're really, really pushing hard. Long story short, Governor Christie was asked if Rob Astorino would be the nominee to run for governor against Andrew Cuomo in New York for the gubernatorial race, would he support him? And he was non-committal, allegedly, or said yes, but then reportedly called Andrew Cuomo and said, I never said I would support him. So here's the head of the Governors Association now, is what Christie is. The head of the Republican Governors Association, and he reportedly has been non-committal to downright saying no to supporting the possible Republican nominee for governor in the state of New York against an incumbent Democrat. I mean, this is Christie, baby. He will wind up, you take my word, he will wind up as Hillary Clinton's VP. I've been saying that since June, and that's where he's headed. And where are we headed? Glad you asked that. David Fredoso will join us, talk about Obamacare, middle-class pinch. Steve